Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel, Signing with Omar. Today is part 3 of the ongoing series, Uncommon ASL Signs. Are you ready? Let's get started. The first sign we're going to do is in lieu of, in other words, exchange or instead of. So basically what I do is I take both hands and make F's out of them. Then you're going to turn them on their side. The right hand is going to go further away from the body and the left hand is closer. And what you do is a backward exchange, but the right hand ends up exactly where it started. Let me show you that from the side. Once again from the front. That is in lieu of. The next sign we're going to do is interrogative. Basically what I'm saying with that is forceful questioning. So if it's forceful, I've got to demonstrate it not only in my hands, but I've got to show it in my face. Let me show you what that looks like. Now from the side. What I did with this sign, I showed it in my mouth, little teeth showing, and I did the question sign with both hands. Now to do the question sign with both hands, you make ones out of both of them, and as they're going forward, you bend them like hooks. So, that is how you sign interrogative. The next sign we have is morals. Now there are two different ways to sign morals. The first, let me demonstrate it. Make an M with the right hand, go right over the heart and do a circular motion. One more time. That's the first way to sign morals. The next way of signing morals is if it was listed maybe on a PowerPoint or on some type of paper and it's listed. So what you would do for this sign is the same sign as ethics, but you would use an initialized M. Now basically what I did, I showed you that there's morals and I have them listed. You can do it another way. Let me show you that. Basically I'm saying, here's the morals, there's the first, second, third, and it kind of goes down in the list. So these are my different ways of signing morals. The next sign is malice. Now, malice is a very strong emotion. It's also an emotion that you don't want to let go of. So let me demonstrate what that looks like. Now, what I did was I said there's strong emotions coming out. I grabbed hold of it and I'm holding on to it. I'm not letting it go. So let me demonstrate that one more time. That is the sign for malice. The next sign is metabolism. We know with the metabolism, the intestines are involved. So you're going to do this sign kind of even where the abdomen starts, right up underneath the rib cage. And so what you do is you take both hands right on top of the left, fingers on top of each other, and then you do circular motions. So let me show you what that looks like, one hand. That is how you sign metabolism. Now, to get a little playful, if someone has a fast metabolism, you can just demonstrate it going faster. That is how you sign metabolism. The next sign is New Zealand. New Zealand is a combination of two signs. One is paint and the other is again. So let me show you what paint looks like. Someone's painting, and again, that is the sign for again. So you combine these two for New Zealand. So basically I went in the upstroke and then I did the sign again. Let me demonstrate that one more time. That is the sign for New Zealand. The next sign is pro bono. Basically, you're a volunteer. Now, you could also expand upon that and add no pay. But basically, you're saying you're a volunteer. That is the sign for pro bono. The next sign is potable. Basically, potable means you can drink it. Not portable, but potable. So, to sign that, and what I just did was drink, you can. This is how you sign potable. The next sign is private sector. Now there are two ways to sign it. Let me show you the first. And what I just did was it's not government. The second way of doing that is, what I just said was private, and I did the sign for business. Basically, lay your hand flat, the left hand non-dominant flat, right like you're doing the sign table, and you use initialize B, you go back and forth. Let me demonstrate that one more time. Those are the two ways of signing private sector. The next sign is pet peeve. Now, when you have pet peeve, sometimes it could be an annoyance. Someone's breaking or crossing your line. So you said, it's my pet peeve, or that's their pet peeve. So let me show you, and you got to show it in motion in the face. So you take the right 5 hand and you take the middle finger, bend it, place it right there by the temple, and it's going to go forward. Now you have to add the emotion, clench your teeth. Now you notice that the middle finger stayed on the temple, the hand just moved forward. That is pet peeve. The next sign is prosecuted. Now we know what prosecuted, the sign court is involved. So there are 2 signs that you would use for prosecuted. Let me show you. And basically what I said was court, blame. Now if you're talking about maybe the prosecution team, you can add group there maybe. That is prosecuted. The next sign is rebuttal. Now we know with rebuttal there is discussions going back and forth. They're discussing something here, they're discussing something there. So the sign rebuttal, let me demonstrate. That is how you would sign rebuttal. The next sign is recycle. Basically, you're going to do the sign about, but you're going to use initialize R with the right hand. The right hand goes right on top of that finger and makes a circle and comes right back where it started. That is recycle. The next sign is raw. Now there are 2, or there's actually more than 2 definitions for the sign raw, but the 2 I'm going to demonstrate for you. The first is when something's very traumatic, tragic, or scarring. So basically, you take the right hand, you make a hook out of it, and it scrapes the top of the forehead. That is one way of signing raw. The second way of signing raw is if you're dealing with maybe food that's not cooked. And so what I would do with that is just finger spell raw, and then from there expand. So you have the first, and then you have the second. These are the 2 ways that I sign raw. The next sign we're going to do is strategies. Now we know what strategies there are plans involved, and usually you have them listed. So let me show you 2 ways of doing that. Or. Now the first one I did, of course, both of them involved the sign plan, and then I said here's a listing of them. But the second way I did it was, here's a list. This is the first, second, third, and fourth, and so on. So these are the 2 ways of signing strategies. Synergistic. Let me demonstrate. To sign synergistic, you do the same sign as you would do for mainstream, and then you do the sign unity. I'll demonstrate that again. That's how you sign synergistic. Sucede, not succeed, but sucede. Basically, you're stepping away from something. So what I do is I take my left hand, form a C, place it down on its side, take the right hand, form a U, but bend them, and that bent hand sits right there on top of the thumbs. See that? And then from there, it steps out of it. Let me do this from the side. That is sucede. Etcetera. We've all said that, or many of us older have said etcetera. Basically, you take both hands, you make ones, the tips of them touch one another, such as, and then it goes away in a little wiggly motion. Now don't use 2, because if you do this, that's bacon. You use ones. That is etcetera. Too long. So how I would sign that, imagine something that's constantly going on, and you're starting to get annoyed. And you're like, oh, this person that speech is forever, or this song just continues on and on. You've got to demonstrate that in your face. So let me show you what it looks like. Let me show you from the side. So the right hand is up against the left is closest to the body. You're going up and down in like a hill, and you're showing that I'm getting annoyed right now in your face. That is too long. The next sign is unbeknownst. Now, it's not like clueless, which is this sign. Unbeknownst has more of a motion of surprise to it, like, unbeknownst to me, my father was a CIA agent. I had no idea. And to demonstrate that, you show an element of surprise on the face. Take the right hand or your dominant hand, you make an F. Now this circular portion goes right up against the forehead. That is unbeknownst. These are approximately 20 uncommon ASL signs. I hope you've enjoyed them. Do me a favor, hit the like button, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and hit the notification, and stay tuned for more uncommon ASL signs.